Welcome to Pittsburgh Sports Now. Big news today in Pennsylvania high school athletics, and that is the introduction. It's just the introduction of a proposed bill by a state representative that would have a huge impact on high school sports as we know it today. And to talk to us about that and to give his opinion is our high school insider, the coach Doug Biega. First of all, Doug, the first thing brought up is something we've heard about for many a year, and that is public versus private playing against each other, competing against each other. Can you basically, before we get your opinion on it, enlighten our viewers on what's been proposed?
Well, I mean, as you alluded to, this has been a decade-old, at least a decade-old debate. I'm not quite sure exactly when Philadelphia introduced their charter schools into the PIAA Playoffs, but that's really when this thing gained some momentum. There had always been private schools, Catholic schools versus public schools, but I kind of think that the public schools could compete with those schools a little bit. You bring these Philly charter schools in, they're kind of winning a huge majority or huge percentage of the championships. So what the proposal is that there are two separate playoffs, one for Catholic, private, charter, and one for public. Your
opinion on that is that you've competed in that in some form. What's your take on it?
Well, I'm selfishly, had they introduced this 10 years ago, I'd have 4 state championships instead of 2. The 2 losses I have at the PIAA level were 2 Philadelphia charter schools. You guys see the Morris twins still playing in the NBA playoffs sometimes. They took a ring away from Beaver Falls. Imhotep Charter did the same thing. So selfishly, I would have loved to have had separate playoffs. But that goes to the other thing, like, maybe some records, will be need asterisks by them. Beaver Falls had to compete against the Philadelphia charter schools. Now these schools didn't. So is their state championship more or less valuable because they competed against a bigger pool of competition? Me personally, I do think they have an unfair advantage. When we lost Imhotep Charter in the state playoffs, they had guys from New Jersey, guys from Philadelphia is a big place, a lot bigger than Beaver Falls. So naturally they have more talent to pull from than we do in public schools, traditional public schools. But if you're asking me what is fair, I think it's fair that they have 2 separate playoffs. One for the private public Catholic schools, the Catholic and the charter schools and the private schools, and one for public schools. It's only fair.
The other big piece of proposed news is something that we've been hearing about, the public versus private or the Catholic topic, but this one came out of the blue a little bit, and that's the transfer rule. Basically, what's being proposed, introduced, is that any kid, there will be no more hearings to whether or not a transfer is legal. They'll all be legal, provided the fact that the player, 50% of the season hasn't been completed yet. Right. Your take on that?
Okay, well, I have 2 opinions on that. Firstly, I don't think it is going to be as dramatic as people think. There's not going to be like this chaos where everybody's going where they want to go. You still have to reside within the district. The school districts have their own policy where if I live in Hopewell, I can't attend of Southside Beaver. Okay, I have to attend the district. I have to reside in the district with where I play. So the families are still going to have to make an investment in the community, in the district. And if they're willing to do that, this leads to my other opinion, you should be able to play where you want to go. You should be able to attend where you want to go. This is the United States of America. If I want to live somewhere and play basketball somewhere, I should have the right to do that. And if I sell my house and buy a house in Aliquippa, then that's where I get to play. I think that's fine. I really like the asterisks, however, on that it has to be 50% of the season has to have not been eclipsed, because now you're looking at kind of free agency. If my son's good and he's playing for a team that isn't winning, and I see a team that I could rent an apartment for 6 months and make the playoffs and make a name for myself and maybe get a scholarship out of it, I don't think that's good, because now you're looking at high school free agency, which to me is insane. So as long as it doesn't go in that direction, I see this as much ado about nothing, and I think it's something you should be allowed to do. You should be able to send your kid where you want to send them. This is a free country.
Last thing, do you think is there one thing that led to this, or is this more directed toward basketball or football or
basketball? I would think I think they're kind of interwoven, because in Philadelphia it's chaos. They go wherever they want to go, whenever they want to go there. And then you have a kid who transfers from, like I said, Hopewell to Aliquippa, and he has to jump through 900 hearings to prove that it's not for athletic intent. Meanwhile, at these charter schools, they change schools every 5 minutes, and there's no red flags. And then you have to compete against them. So I kind of think they're related, which is why they were introduced around the same time.
All right, Doug. As always, we appreciate the input, and
No problem.
we'll see you back.
Take care.